My name is Liaquat and I live in Birmingham. I'd like to share with you some information regarding my recent diagnosis of cancer. I was first introduced to cancer way back in 1988. It's sad to say that my mother passed away from cancer. My mother had bowel cancer, and in 1989 my mother passed away. 10 years later, when I was 27 years old, I too was diagnosed with cancer. I had no symptoms. I had no idea that this was going on, that there was a problem. In my particular case, everything happened coincidentally. In my first experience of cancer, I had a car accident, a pretty serious car accident, which led to me taking a lot of medication afterwards for pain and for pain management mostly. My doctor decided one day that it would be useful for me to have an endoscopy to check if any of these tablets were causing ulcers in my stomach. I can still remember how I felt at the thought of an endoscopy. I'd never heard this word before. And when somebody mentioned that an endoscopy or a colonoscopy, which was what I was going to have, is all about somebody putting a camera in your rear end so that they can inspect your stomach, I mean, it kind of really embarrassed me. And my first reaction was, I don't want to do this. I don't think this is a good idea. There must be another way. When it was explained to me how serious the matter was, and obviously knowing that my mother had died of bowel cancer, I realized that it was something that had to be done. At that stage, cancer or anything else was the furthest thing from my mind. The furthest thing from my mind. And the fact that the doctors wanted to just check that my stomach was okay and that there hadn't been any ulcers because of the medication was not such a concern to me. I remember very, very clearly the bowel prep the first time I did it. It tasted horrible. It really tasted horrible. The thought of not being able to eat food, to have a special diet beforehand, and then I personally got a bit of fever. Well, it wasn't fever, sorry, it was temperature. I personally got temperature before the actual colonoscopy, and that was because maybe I wasn't drinking enough. I was dehydrating. When I went in to the hospital, they explained to me the procedure. The doctors explained to me what was going to be happening. I got changed and they wheeled me to the theatre for the colonoscopy. I remember being given the sedative. It's strange because it's 21 years since it's happened, but I can still remember it quite clearly. I remember the camera, the feeling that I had inside my stomach as the actual camera was put in. There was a bit of a sickly feeling, and then on the screen, suddenly I was able to see the inside of my bowel. Now, the sedative that they had given me was one where I was able to stay awake to answer their questions, and they told me that afterwards I wouldn't really remember very much. But anyway, I remember the camera in my stomach, and I remember when they actually came across the polyp. The doctor at the time, the consultant at the time, asked for some biopsies to be taken, and they just everything was made out as if it was the most normal thing in the world. For me, my thoughts at the time were around, this is an ulcer potentially, this is something to do with the tablets that I'm taking. And then afterwards, it all concluded. I was taken back to the room, and I was left to rest. And when I woke up, I went home. So this was February 2000, and that was my first experience of a colonoscopy. Now we're in February 2021. After the colonoscopy, a week went by. At that time, I had it done privately. By that time, a week had gone by, and I was contacted by my consultant, asked to go in to see him. And when I went in to see him, he explained to me that the outcome was slightly surprising for them, because they had found a polyp. When I went in to see the consultant the following week, I didn't expect the news that he gave me, and I remember the shock at the time when he told me that they had actually come across a tumor during the screening, during the colonoscopy. And then he told me that it was actually malignant, and that I needed to have surgery quite soon. I felt sick at the time. I felt very uncomfortable. I had a member of the family with me at the time, and I remember just going blank, when I heard that news. It was one of the most shocking things that I think a person can hear. Especially one who has had a relative or a member of the community, someone in the family, pass away as a result of cancer.